All right, we are back, Akiva and I, here with our incredibly big guest here today. Of course, the star of stage and screen, two-time Emmy Award winner,
Yeah.
Michael Emerson. Michael, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me. This is
Yes.
fun.
So we hope so, Michael. What a treat to have you here to be our big guest here today, and really appreciate you carving out some time to talk with us.
I'm sure that you've had a lot of big guests.
Well, we have Sam on almost every week. That's like a pretty big get.
Yeah. And so, we work very closely with Sam, and we had thought that he had a connection with you because he went to Emerson.
Oh, yeah, yeah, and that college is named after me.
Yes,
so.
and we've assumed everybody there knows you, so we appreciate it. We have been podcasting for quite some time. Michael, are you a podcast listener? Not of this podcast, naturally, but do you listen to podcasts?
Well, I'm thinking I'm going to become a listener to your podcast. I don't listen to very many, a few about sort of, political stuff.
Yes.
But not too much.
Yes. Because you have such a great voice that, I feel like that you would be such a natural to do podcasting yourself.
But I don't know what I would talk about. I would feel presumptuous because I don't feel like I have, maybe meaningful opinions on very many topics. Not that one has to have meaningful opinions or that very many other people do.
Yeah.
Have you been a guest on a lot of podcasts, Michael?
I have been on a certain number of them. Yeah, mostly showbiz related.
Yeah. There are so many, it's become a very big business, actors doing rewatch podcasts about the shows that they were involved in. And, Akiva and I don't know if we get enough credit. We really did one of the first Seinfeld rewatch podcasts. We almost invented the genre. But now it's so many people that are actors that have done the shows. They go ahead and they start these rewatch podcasts. Do you know, is it like, what's the process of that like? Is it like a land grab for the actors that participated in a show of who's going to get to the rewatch podcast first?
I confess to you, and this may not surprise you, that this is the first I've ever heard of rewatching with actors who were participants in the original.
Oh,
that's become a big thing. Yeah, recently. It used to be to be people like us, Michael. And now it's
I should listen to more podcasts to find out about these things. For God's sake.
I mean, there's been quite a few very successful ones between the Office ladies and was it Talking Sopranos, and almost every single show has a rewatch podcast with the actors, and sometimes there are competing rewatch podcasts from multiple actors from the shows.
Competitive rewatching.
Yes.
God.
Michael, would you like to call one right now? Should we set one up maybe for you? So if somebody says, hey, we're doing a rewatch podcast, no, I already claimed that. Which show would you rewatch and who would you do the podcast with?
Wow. Well, I suppose there's still interest in Lost. So, maybe some momentous episode in Lost, although I'd
Michael,
be afraid that
it's not one
it's
episode.
been so long.
You do the whole show.
I will have completely forgotten the circumstances under which we shot the thing.
The podcast is every episode.
Yeah, it's one episode a week. It never ends, Michael.
God, that's 103, 105.
And you weren't even there at the beginning of Lost. I don't know how much you'd have to add to the first season podcast. You'd have to bring on
It's
guests.
true. It's true. I came in episode 14 of season 2.
Yeah, but that's fine because you would hear stories that would be new to you, so it'd be interesting. Do you have who would you co-host it with?
Terry?
Oh, that would be big.
That's all right. We're big Wikipedia guys, so we like to look at Wikipedia entries before we interview someone. There's a story on your Wikipedia page where J.J. Abrams was going to do a show, you and Terry O'Quinn, and then it just never happened. Is that true?
Yeah. It was. Oh man, they worked on it. It was assigned to a writing team, and But the more
Was it a comedy or a drama?
it was lighthearted. It all started as a gag. Terry and I used to joke about how our characters on Lost were were uh, were so rough and tumble. You know, we could fight, we could take a blow to the head, we could come back from gunshot wounds and stuff like that. And we thought, because we were men of a certain age by that point, and we thought, well, this is just silly. You know, neither of us could get back up after anyone knocked us down. And we thought we should do a story about two guys that are kind of like grifters, but they're kind of sad and weak and old, and so they get into trouble and they can't get up when someone hits them, or it was going to be laughable, but also kind of jazzy, kind of they were kind of like a Heckle and Jekyll kind of a thing.
Mhm.
But the more they wrote on it, the more they were turning us into real action heroes, which was completely the wrong way to go. Well, it's completely apart from what we had imagined it might be, and not as funny. And then we're thinking, oh God. And then someone had this idea that these grifters would be on the road. So every episode would be set and shot in a different town in America. And I mean, the logistical problems of that, as you might imagine, were manifold. So it was but it was fun to talk about, and we did some great pitches, because Terry and I, like the show could have been, Terry and I are funny together.
Yeah.
But it all fell apart.
All right. I have a podcast pitch for you, Michael. It's about a hypothetical show that never happened. You and Terry O'Quinn do the podcast, and you just make up what the episodes were and invite fake guests on. Like, oh, the big guest star this week. Let's get Matthew Fox in here or something.
Oh God, no, you would never come.
Yeah, you could share the anecdotes of like the stuff that happened on the set and all the funny stories.
Be creative, like, because anything could happen.
This is huge. Nobody's ever thought of this idea before.
A fake show recap, Michael.
See, these things you're pitching me, though, these are young men's things. You guys are energetic. You're ambitious.
That's what they say about us.
We're not that energetic on it.
But guys like Terry and I, we have about 2-3 hours worth of high energy in any given week. So it would be, it'd be tough. The show might be quieter and less fun than you imagine.
Yeah. Well, they could be short. Maybe they could be TikToks. So there's something there. So that show didn't end up happening. But what you did do after Lost was Person of Interest. And I've really been reading up quite a bit about Person of Interest to get ready to speak to you today. And Michael, it really does seem like that Person of Interest, looking back, was a show that may have been ahead of its time. Have you had any reflections in like the last couple of years as AI has become a bigger part of our news and our world about what Person of Interest had to say about artificial intelligence?
Well, all that news arrived in my consciousness while we were shooting it. When we started that show, I thought it was science fiction. After about 2 seasons, we saw that it was science fact, and it was alarming. So, and I still feel like, even more so now as I look back on it, I think, oh God, we took the conversation to a place where it's still happening. It was good that way. That's Jonah Nolan,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And of course, Fallout is his baby too, along with Westworld. So he's a guy that's always thinking about technology and the future.
Yeah. Do you feel better or are you more alarmed about the rise of artificial intelligence after having it be such a big part of that series?
I mean, I'm in a constant dull state of alarm about everything anymore. So I don't know if it's better or worse. AI is it's a scary thing, but it's supposedly human created and human controlled. We'll just have to see what kind of guardrails, if any, are able to be thrown up to sort of keep humankind going on the planet.
Rob, so podcast pitch number 2, I think.
Yes.
You, Michael, and Taraji P. Henson, and it's people of interest. And you watch an episode every week.
Oh my God. I don't think Taraji would have much good to say about that series. I don't think it was I'm not really sure that it was a happy experience for her.
Oh, she didn't like it.
Well, I think she had been promised a little more narrative prominence.
Okay.
In the series, and that didn't come to pass. And I think she thought correctly that she had more to offer herself, the world of entertainment, in some other role.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it takes a long time to extricate yourself from the contracts. So I think it was season 3 before they made a lovely storyline about her demise and all of that. And then, a couple months later, she's on Empire, and the world is her oyster, and she proved that,
Well, she's had quite the star turn. And I wonder, is there a recipe for a show like Person of Interest to end up getting a new life on streaming? We saw last year, one of the big stories was that Suits got posted onto Netflix and a whole new audience discovered it. It also had somebody who became a bigger star after the show in Meghan Markle, and a lot of people found the show that way. Like, is that something that an actor ever thinks about could a show have this new second life in streaming?
I suppose Jim or I could marry some foreign royal and kind of breathe life back into it, but I'm not sure that whole Suits phenomenon, that seems like a one-off to me. Maybe that's an option for a bunch of other shows. I'm not sure. People do still watch Person of Interest. They stop me on the street. Children of people that watched it originally are now. But that's more true of Lost, though. Now I get teenagers who said their parents wouldn't let them watch it when it was on, but now they can.
My kids don't really know what it is, and I mentioned the show recently, and I told my daughter, like, "Oh, you should watch it." I think there will be like a Lost resurgence, like a Gen Z rewatching Lost. I don't know where it's streaming, but I do think I do think there's a second life to Lost for sure. And like, of course, at some point they're going to reboot it. It's almost surprising it hasn't happened yet, but I'm sure it will happen at some point. That
you mean like
for something,
spin it off, or
probably, right? They do with everything else, and it had a very rabid fan base. So you'd think,
it's true. It had a big fan base. I don't know what they do with it though. If you're talking about taking that intellectual property and spinning it some other way with some other group of actors, I could see that. I could see that happening.
Well, they got to bring back some of the older actors. That's how these things work.
Well, that's where, So that's where it gets tricky.
Yeah,
because you've got some people that wouldn't dream of doing it again, and other people that would want, I don't know, changes or some fresh angle.
Which camp are you in?
I don't know. If they were going to remount it, look, it was hard work. It was physical, a lot of running around in the jungle, a lot of fights and falling in traps and caves and stuff like that. So I don't know how much more of that. I'm looking for a role where I stand around well dressed with a martini in my hand, and not so much of the, I was the most beaten character, I think, in television in those days. And I keep thinking I'm going to leave it behind, but every show I do, it keeps on going. So it's just me, I think.
Did you ever get any negative feedback because your character was, a bad guy? Would people ever say like, oh, like be afraid of you when they met you or something? Because
oh God, yeah. Oh yeah, people partly it's people enjoy confusing or blurring the actor and the character. So some of that is just them. It's like fan fiction in their heads. But other times, and people would be upset with me, or I'd have people stop me on the street and say, "We had to quit watching this show because we hated it when you came on."
But
Well,
it's almost a
thanks.
compliment, right? That's what you're supposed to
I
be,
guess
doing.
in a way. And I want to say to them, what did you think that show was? Did you think it was like a soap opera? That these were just happy castaways and there's going to be romances and stuff and little misunderstandings? No, it was big stuff. It was high stakes. It was good and evil and death and trouble.
Yeah. Speaking of evil, and it's another series that you've been involved with. I know that really explores the paranormal. What's it like for you to have worked on that show?
I really like it. I like the show. I like the character I play. I like it because it's serious and scary, but there's also something arch in it. There's some humor in it. I don't know. The mix feels right for me, or at least the mix of the character that I'm playing, who is seemingly representative of the demon underground in planet Earth.
Might be too spooky for you, Akiva.
Do you ever like ask your agents or something like, hey, let's all right, we've been a bad guy 4 times in a row. Let's get one where I'm the hero.
I don't know. You know, the bad guys it seems to be a place where I live comfortably. I'm not sure I know how to play good guy. I'm not sure how I know how to play earnestness or tenderness. It must be out there somewhere, but
Michael, so
the bad guys just have more layers, you know. That's the
story that went around. We were both big Lost fans, Rob and I. Is that your character? I think was supposed to have just a short arc, right? And then you end up, being such a compelling character that you become, for the rest of the series, a major player. Do you ever think about how that's such a because a lot of times these things are like so planned in advance, especially with Lost, where everyone was constantly analyzing, like, oh, of course they have a plan for every minute of every second for all however many seasons. Like it's such an unusual thing probably in Hollywood where you sort of willed your way. Like you did such a good job there. I don't know, Rob, if you know, Rolling Stone rated him the #1 villain in TV history.
Yes.
That was in 2016. It wasn't even like, oh, all right, the show's on. It's like, this is like after the show was not even, on for 6 years at this point. But you really it's almost like a guy. I don't know if you're a big sports fan. It's almost like a guy getting a 10-day contract in the NBA. It's like, all right, we just need a fill-in because a few people are injured, and then he's like the best player on the team. What happened? And now he's like in the NBA for as long as he wants. It is kind of a remarkable story that you willed your way into being like such a major part of that huge show.
Well, I think they were just kind of they were on some level making it up as they were going along, and I don't think they had storyline established that far out in advance. Certainly not in season 1, and so it was a mad scramble. And so in a way, I think it was like an audition. I was auditioning for the antagonist in the series, and had I not worked out, I think I would have been easily killed off, and they could have gone to some other plan. But it seemed to work out all right. But yeah, I was engaged originally to do 3 episodes.
Yeah.
And that's how many clothes I packed, and then I had to buy more clothes when they wouldn't let me go home.
Could you tell us a little bit about the new series that you're a part of that has gotten a lot of buzz, Fallout?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I am not a video game player, so I didn't know, Fallout from asteroids, but it's apparently it has a global following, and it has a tone that's hard to pinpoint, and it seems like Jonah and his team have nailed the tone, because the people that are fans of the games are, I think, very happy with the way he's mixed up the elements of that world without pictorializing any particular season of that game. He's dropped a new storyline into the midst of that world, but incorporates it fairly organically. It was fun. It was a strange shoot, but it had some astonishing sets and stuff and crazy effects and, guys flying, but not like guys flying like old time, like retro futuristic flying, you know, big robotic jet guys, you know, it was.
How much of it is working against a green screen?
Very little.
Oh,
Certainly
wow.
none for me.
Yeah.
I mean, when we're in the desert, we're in the desert though. I mean, my desert stuff was shot in Utah and Nevada, but they took cast and crew to Namibia for a week at one point to get more extraordinary shots of where white sand comes down to naked ocean, you know, that kind of stuff. They wanted those pictorials, and I guess Amazon could write those checks. So they did that stuff. But I worked on some astonishing sets. They found a junkyard south of Trenton in New Jersey that was like Junk World. It was like if Disney made Junk World. It was fabulously stacked with wrecked buses and old jet aircraft and stuff. It was like just wreckage. And that became one of our important sets, you know, and filled it all up with these rough looking radiation damaged people who were, you know, cooking iguanas and, you know, playing cards for Coca-Cola bottle caps, you know, that kind of, you know, Mad Maxy kind of stuff. It was cool.
Yeah.
But a rough shoot, because, you know, those scenes where somebody blows your foot off or stuff like that, that stuff's, it's, you know, it'll wear you down.
Where's your martini?
Where's the martini?
Yeah.
Rob, should we play the Big Four game with Michael?
Okay, I think he's gonna know it. You want to set it up?
Yeah, so we play this game with all our guests, at least the guests who have IMDb pages, Michael. IMDb, for some reason, picks 4 projects that a person has worked on, and those are like the 4 that they feature on their page. It says you're known for A, B, C, and D. Okay? Sometimes it's accurate, and sometimes it's very random. So we want to know, can you get all 4 of your what are you known for, Michael?
I'm not gonna prevail in this game because I'm sure they've got some.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm gonna say it's Lost, Person of Interest.
That's 2.
Is Evil one of them?
It is not.
Nope.
Yeah. So it's earlier. Is it The Practice?
No,
it's Saw.
Saw.
It's the first Saw movie.
Rob, did you watch The Practice? I like The Practice.
I did not keep up with it. I know that Michael won an Emmy for it, but I did not keep up with it.
I played a serial killer.
Yes.
a really straightforward, seriously scary serial killer. Wow, what else? Then is it going to be some animated feature like Batman?
Yes, Batman.
Yeah. It is a hard one.
The
Batman
Dark Knight Returns.
I think that gives an advantage probably to movies over TV also. So.
It's funny. It's funny how much traction you get if you work in one of those giant franchises.
Yeah.
You know.
Michael, now a lot of the background of what we have to do comes from reality TV, and I know that you're such an accomplished actor. Have you ever watched any reality TV show?
Boy. I used to watch Anthony Bourdain go around the world and eat.
Okay.
Does that count?
I think we'll count it.
Yeah, I think it counts.
Yeah. But no, not the Housewives or the Survivors or any of that.
Yeah. Only there's like some synergy between the Survivors and the Lost people in that both have had to like rebuild a civilization on the island.
Yeah. And the 2 shows were got overlapped in people's mind back in the day.
Yeah. Back
in the days when the shows were running simultaneously.
Yeah. Michael, we also like to ask our guests, of course, that a big part of the show is getting ideas submitted from our listeners and guests. Do you have a potential idea because you've now become very well acquainted with Akiva and myself? Yes.
Can we give him let's just on one foot explain like 5 or 10 of the episodes we've done just to get the wheels rolling in Michael's head for what we've done. So so some of the things, so again, it's listener submitted ideas every week, Michael. If we don't like it, we don't have to put it on this wheel and never gets done. So some things we've done is we've named a listener's baby. We sometimes watch movies on 3x instead of 1x to try and figure out what's going on. Someone made a musical about us. What else have we done, Rob?
We recently named another baby.
That's true. We did name a second baby. Yeah, we sometimes we'll like ask our listeners questions and come up with a census, like try and figure out what people want. We've done.
We really have turned the genre on its head at many turns. Also, we recently announced that the podcast is going to end at episode 360.
Yeah,
we're going to try to have to get a nice ending. I know that you have said that you thought the ending of Lost was perfect, and you love the ending. We're hoping to have to feel the same way about the ending of this podcast.
Yeah. Are you close to 360?
This is episode 257.
Oh, okay.
We got at least 2 years left.
Yeah, you have time. You have time.
But famously, that the creators of Lost have said that they felt like that they needed an end date to help them really hit the sweet spot of writing the story.
We did mention it when we announced it. It was an inspiration.
I'm sure they say that in earnest.
Yes,
they did seem to. Well, once like when you have a time frame, then you can plan a little better, and you can maybe be a little more succinct, and not just keep writing away.
Yeah, we think so. So, Michael, that not to put you on the spot, do you have a suggestion for something that we could put onto the wheel?
A couple of things that I think about in terms of TV and TV watching is I'm always and I don't know how this fits on the wheel, but I'm always interested in the earliest memory anyone has of a TV show.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember yours, Michael?
How far? I can remember, and I don't know if it was at broadcast, but I can remember an episode of a Jackie Gleason show called The Life of Riley.
Yes.
Predates.
Rob, do you remember yours?
I feel like it was probably a lot of like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Yeah, for me, it's just sport. I think it was like the 1988 National League Championship Series, Mets Dodgers. I remember being on. But that is an interesting idea, like the first show, and I wonder how that like shapes people's like future TV and media consumption. Michael, I think that is interesting.
Did that have an impact on you, Michael?
I don't know. The impact of it is that I am damn near as old as television. And TV, when I was a little boy, they had grown-up shows during the daytime. Like there was a film star named Loretta Young, and she hosted a show in the afternoon where she would wear a beautiful gown and introduce some short drama, some 20-minute drama that they had cooked up for that week's entertainment. Anyway, so long ago. Okay. Another thing that I always wish that somebody could get their hands on unaired pilots and make a whole season of looking at failed pilots and then talking about why they didn't go and how great they could have been or not.
Honestly, a very good pitch. That's a really good pitch.
That's very good.
There's so many.
The only
There's
issue
so many out there somewhere in vaults, in cans.
Right.
Right, that's the issue, right? It would hard. There are a few that have snuck their way to YouTube, Michael, but I do think we'd need someone with like big time industry, Emerson level juice probably to get us get us into those vaults, because I don't know how to find them. But it is cool. Sometimes you'll like see, similar to what we talked about with the Terry O'Quinn show, like you'll hear, because they announce 100 shows for every like 5 or so probably that make air. It's like, oh, that sounds interesting. And of course they filmed something for it, right? The people spent, months of their life filming this one episode of a show, and
millions were spent.
Millions. Yeah. You famously were on the show where I think the most millions were spent on a pilot. And sometimes it just doesn't work. That is honestly a great pitch. Just the logistics, I would wonder of how to get access to them. But honestly, it's that's a really nice idea.
Yeah. Well, Michael, we appreciate you carving some time out of your day to talk with us. You were an amazing.
Can we ask Michael
guest.
one more question, Rob?
That's up to Michael.
Michael, do you have time for our last question?
Go
I'd
for
like
it.
to ask everyone who comes on the program, who is living rent free in your head these days, Michael?
By that you mean?
So basically, what are you thinking about that you just can't get out of your head? What's the one person or thing that you just like, that person is really,
what's on your mind?
What's been on your mind recently that is like, why am I always thinking about this? But
from the world of show business
in general, it could be anything in the world. It could be politics, it could be sports, it could be your next door neighbor bothering you, anything.
You know what I've thought about strangely this week is the English movie actress Madeleine Carroll, and that she was the highest paid woman in show business for at least a year, 1938. And I like her work in like the 39 Steps, for example. She seems, unlike a lot of other, her performance doesn't age. Her performance seems fresh, like she's right here and now. It's 2024 when you're with Madeleine Carroll. So
pretty good one.
She has
That's a good one. No one's ever answered.
She has a special quality, and maybe it's this quality that I'm trying to pin down. How do some actors from the 30s outlive the 30s?
Yeah.
How do some of them just leap off the screen at you now?
They're ahead of their time. They're not doing what everybody else is doing. They're doing something that's, is timeless.
Yeah. I feel a little bit the same about Frederick March. That's just me.
Well, I might say the same thing about you, Michael. I feel like you're not. No, for real, for sure, for real. I think there's, you're nobody says, all right, he's from 2006 or he's from 2024. I think, if you're evil plays forever, right? Like acting a bad guy.
Yeah, all right. Up. Yeah, maybe good bad guys are forever.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, Michael, thank you so much for making some time for us. Anything else you want to let people know or tell people to check out?
No, I just want to say I had fun gabbing with y'all.
No, thank you.
We had a great time. Really appreciate you giving us all this time.
Let's do it again.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Michael,
when we come up with the pilots podcast, you're going to be our first guest.
We'll get access to some of these pilots. Okay. All right. Michael, thank you so much. Take care. Okay.
Thanks for having me, Rob.
Okay.